A lot of people are now putting out regurgitated information that sucks because they're using AI. That's a real problem. You're not going to do well. There's nothing new here. Good luck getting traffic.
Congrats on getting beyond $1 million. What got you here won't always get you there. This is a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to reach beyond their 7-figure business and scale to 8, 9, and even 10 figures. I'm Brad Weimert, and as the founder of Easy Pay Direct, I have had the privilege to work with more than 30,000 businesses, allowing me to see the data behind what some of the most successful companies on the planet are doing differently. Join me each week as I dig in with experts in sales, marketing, operations, technology, and wealth building. And you'll learn some of the specific tools, tactics, and strategies that are working today in those multi-million, 8, 9, and 10-figure businesses. Life can get exciting beyond $1 million. Despite a 3 a.m. wake up, Neil Patel, a marketing legend, still nonchalantly gives some simple, super powerful answers to really complex questions around growth and marketing. You're going to have 3 major things you want to listen to in this episode. The first is how to create an impactful content strategy in this ever-evolving world of social media we have. The second is how to tailor that content for a specific audience to actually get it to convert. And the third is looking at the trend analysis to optimize content engagement to serve your short-term purposes and your long-term purposes. Neil Patel is brilliant. Don't let the simplicity of the answers slip by you. Implement what you can and take some notes. Neil Patel, thank you so much for carving out time, man.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. So I think everybody, certainly in the marketing community, knows you as a longtime, analytical, successful marketer. For those that don't know you, can you give me the fast forward version of how you got to now? Because you started in business at 16.
Started in business 16. I'm 38 now, so 22 years. I spent the majority of my career in marketing, either marketing software or ad agencies. And my current startup is called NP Digital. It's a marketing agency, and we help people grow their traffic globally. And it's probably not really a startup anymore, but I still call it a startup.
Do you feel like you operate it like a startup?
No. It's we have quite a bit of headcount. I think it started moving slower once we started getting to like 300-400 people.
Good God.
And then when we got to 500, 600, 700, etc., started getting worse and worse.
Sounds like a nightmare to me.
It wasn't bad. I still love it and I enjoy it. But like you start worrying about different things like, oh, wait, we had to have these security procedures in place. We had to have this in place for lawsuits and this insurance policies. Like there's just so much stuff. Oh, we're opening up a new country. Well, we had to open up bank accounts. We have to open up corporations. Oh, we have to run this because we have banking partners. Okay, cool. Do they allow this? Is it what's in our contract? Do they require, certain types of insurance and liabilities, etc.? Like the list goes on and on.
So I want to talk about the perils of running a company that has hundreds of employees and how your role has changed. But for a quick rundown, so started at 16. This is the track record that the internet gave me, which presumably you planted there for me to find.
No, probably not. But go continue. I'm curious to see what the internet told you.
They told me Advice Monkey at 16.
Yeah, which failed miserably.
It failed miserably?
Yeah.
Crazy Egg, which is heat maps.
Before that was an ad agency called ACS.
Okay.
It got hit hard during the 2008 crisis. It was doing millions in revenue, but it got hit hard in the 2008 crisis. Then Crazy Egg.
And KISSmetrics.
Crazy Egg did really well. KISSmetrics, not so much. They ran out of money a few times. And I don't know who owns it now, but it was fire sales.
And then I've got NP Digital and Uber Suggest.
NP Digital, yeah. And then Uber Suggest, I think may have came before NP Digital. Eventually I merged it in. We have Answer the Public as well. We bought that one. We're about to close on another deal in 2 weeks. It'll be a creative agency, but we actually buy quite a bit. We buy way more than we talk about.
That's awesome. So I want to talk about acquisition, but before we do, I want to ask you, as somebody that is presumably very good at marketing and has a reputation for being very good at marketing, why do you want to have an agency as opposed to selling your own shit?
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so like let's say you sell your own stuff, right? Your own like ebooks or course. What are you going to get? $5,000, $10,000 max per course product? I can sell deals for $10 million, just one deal. right? It scales quite a bit, or I actually said that the wrong way. Financially, it can scale better. Headcount wise, not really. It's a really manual, tedious process. But the main reason I have an agency isn't even the financial reasons. When I started the agency, it had nothing to do with finance. Yeah, it's been successful, and with that comes money. But I was just pissed off running these software companies and getting crappy marketing services when I would hire people. So I'm like, I'm just going to start it myself and create a better agency. That's how it came about.
So my observation in business has been that almost all agencies are crappy, and the ones that are very good are few and far between and tend to do some sort of revenue share / percentage of lift. And outside of that sliver, they just do their own thing.
Yes.
Am I flawed in my approach there mentally?
No, I think a lot of agencies suck. I was trying to find a text message as we talk because I have a good friend who's a client. They have a good sized business. And he's like just super honest with me, right? Because like we're friends. And so I was like, happy you're doing well, blah, blah, blah. And we were talking about the Canada team because he's working with my Canada team right now. And he's like, generally, our experience with NPD, which is my ad agency, NP Digital, has been the best of all agencies we work with. Surely one of the big reasons you're doing well. And then he mentioned some other agencies, which I don't want to read because it's not necessarily the brightest or it's not necessarily the nicest words. But it's funny. He's not saying that because he's trying to like butter up to me. We were just texting and I was just asking for honest feedback. Like I buy some of his protein products. His company's called Legion Athletics. And I buy his protein products like protein bars, etc. because I travel a lot like you. Sometimes I forget to eat, gobble one of those down, and his stuff tends to be clean. And it's not just for getting like buff. As you can tell looking at me, I'm not a buff guy, but it just keeps you healthy, right? Like supplements, etc. And that was the issue. We face what a lot of people face, crappy experience working with agencies. And it comes down to people. And everyone's like, yay, you need good people. But they say that, but they don't really try to focus on hiring good people. They just optimize for profit. And most agencies, at least the big ones, are run by accountants. They're not run by marketers. And that's what makes the big ones get really bad names because they're optimizing for profitability and earnings instead of results for clients.
Mm. Well, and the flip side of that is that you and I both know in the sort of internet marketing community, this litany of agencies that are the exact opposite, which are marketers, but they're small and most of them will always be small. And I think it's become a trendy business model to pursue on the front end. Who do you pursue and how are you different?
Yeah, a lot of those agencies run by marketers are good, but they're too small at scale. So like, for example, with some of my own companies when we're working with agencies, if they don't have enough of a global footprint, it wouldn't work. Because our customers, like with Crazy Egg, less than 50% of the revenue comes from the United States. Majority of the revenue comes from overseas. So if you're not finding people in different regions and languages who can help, you're kind of SOL, right? You're shit out of luck. So it's hard to find good agencies run by marketers at scale with a global footprint. And that's what we ended up building. I think we're in 19 countries now, 16, 19. My team says 19. The last I counted was 16, but they would know better than me.
Who's your target market in the agency?
Large corporations, not like a company doing like 7 figures or 8 figures, ideally in the 9, if not 10 or 11 figures in revenue.
Okay, so this is a fundamentally different approach too. Had you gone after that target market with the other companies you had?
I have in the past, yes.
How did you approach that and why did you choose that? Because the enterprise level sales is not common for certainly startups or small businesses.
It's not common, but it's where my relationships are. I'm an enterprise guy. I've always been pick up the phone, dial, and try to close.
What's the sales cycle like for those? Because I grew up in like almost door-to-door sales, right? And I'm used to a quick sales cycle.
Yeah, my sales cycle, enterprise side, 60 to 90 days if we're lucky.
Wow.
6 months to a year if we're unlucky. Depends on the customer.
Sure.
And then when you get them, you're not getting a big contract typically out the door. They're testing you in a region with a big brand. It'll be small. So like, I'll give you a prime example of this. I got an email this morning. All right. So the email this morning was, I'll mention the parent company, not the actual brand, but are you familiar with the Diageo, the alcohol brand?
Sure.
probably mispronouncing it. Okay, we're doing marketing for them in a really tiny market, and it's not for that much money. And when I mean it's not for that much money, I'm actually trying to look up where it is. There you go. It's around $135,000 for, it looks like, from 3 months. $135,000 for 3 months. All right. But it's a test run. But if we do well, we'll get more brands, bigger regions, and that'll be really, assuming we can perform, it'll be easy for us to turn into a multi-million-dollar deal. Takes time though.
Yeah. So why are you an enterprise guy? How'd you get into that? Because I mean, most entrepreneurs, when they start something, it's not like, oh, I'm going to start this new company and let me go after Coke.
No. So my background was never like enterprise like Coke. My background was enterprise getting bigger size deals, like starting in the 100,000, 200,000, and climbed up from there. And then eventually, when you climb up, you end up dealing with bigger enterprise brands. My first real company was an ad agency. So I would go to conferences, network. You can't really service people for $10,000 a year. You need bigger contracts. And that's what I mean by I was an enterprise guy from day one. That's how you make the money in my space. And most B2B stuff, a lot of the money is enterprise. SMB is great, but the churn is just so bad in SMB.
Yeah, but the complexity in enterprise is orders of magnitude.
Not really.
You don't think?
No.
I mean, just layers of sales pitch. You've got multiple contact points.
Sure. So I'll give you a prime example. You may think doing your hair is really easy. I look at doing your hair is really complex. You got to get it up, stay up, maybe use a flat iron. I don't know what you use, if anything, or gel, right? It takes work. I don't have hair. So for me, what you have is a lot of work. My background's enterprise. Dealing on the flip side with SMB, I know SMB, don't get me wrong. Or like, I'll give you a better example of consumer. I've never been a consumer entrepreneur. You tell me, hey, do drop shipping. Well, I've never done drop shipping. This is going to be a pain in the butt. I don't know how to do this. It's just like I grew up doing enterprise. That I'm a B2B entrepreneur, tend to stick with enterprise. So you end up naturally getting good at it and you know it. It's not that hard. It just seems hard from the outside because people haven't done it before. But on the flip side, if I go look at what you or other people are doing, seem hard to me because I've never done it.
That's fair, though. Just the number of touch points is different and the sales cycle is different. And so a brand new company that's bootstrapping doesn't have the runway.
Oh, we weren't bootstrapped.
See, there we go. Okay. First ad agency wasn't bootstrapped?
First one was. It was much smaller, like up to a few million in revenue.
So first one was bootstrapped. You worked your way through and you started to reach out to enterprise and started to close enterprise sales. And that began the journey of building the enterprise Rolodex. And as you continued to roll, you leaned into enterprise heavy.
Yes. And the current one was not bootstrapped. The current one was well-funded from day one.
Got it. External parties then?
We raised around $5 million from myself.
Got it.
3 to 5, somewhere in there. I was pulling money in, taking it out, putting it in, but it's probably closer to 5 than 3. I ended up getting all my money out. It wasn't even funding. It was just a loan. But there was no recourse. It was my own money.
Yeah. I mean, so funded by you. Got it. Kind of bootstrap, but it's not really fair to call it bootstrapped if you have a huge injection on the front end.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's also why we have really fast growth. I injected a lot of money.
So let's talk about that before we dive into marketing, because we've got a whole bunch of specifics that I think you can add a tremendous amount of value on that are relevant today, but hundreds of employees. So how big were the previous companies in terms of headcount? Because this is a huge scale.
Yeah, they range all over the board, but typically smaller in headcount. This one has 750-ish. It'll get to like 1,000 pretty quickly, is my guess, within the next few years.
I think that you called that a pain in the butt. Would you do it again?
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's a lot of work, but I do like it.
What are the mechanics? So when you think about scaling with people, how do you do that in a way that's actually clean and repeatable?
Oh, real easy. You hire people who have done it before in your space so you don't have to deal with it. That's how I did it. Hence the $5 million. Probably not the answer that people want to hear, but that's the truth.
Well, so I think that the reason it's not the answer people want to hear is because it doesn't tell the full story, right? So do you look at the going rate in the place that you're trying to hire? Do you go above that rate? Do you buy other agencies? Do you poach people from agencies? How do you find the people that have done it before?
Yeah, we typically poach from other agencies and we'll offer them a better comp package.
And what's the outreach like? Where do you find them?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn? Just direct messages, connection requests?
Yes. Yes.
Love it.
A lot of manual grinding to reach out to these people. Because, like, our CEO ran one of our competitors, and I think there he managed like 4,000 employees or something like that. So I was like, cool. So he's looking like this. He's like, oh, you guys are small. This is a cakewalk.
Got it. I love that.
And then he was like, oh, you're not publicly traded. I don't have to deal with earnings calls and all this kind of stuff and dealing with executives at the parent company, making sure we're doing what we need to hit numbers. And he's like, this is pretty chill. And I was like, sounds good. It's chill for you. Go for it.
Were you the CEO at one point there?
No, I'm never the CEO. I'm a terrible CEO. I'm bad at operations. I'm good at operations with small teams, sub 50. I'm terrible at operations with massive teams.
How did you find out that, and so you're not good at operations for the current 700 mark?
No.
How did you find out that you were a bad CEO?
Well, one, I've never been a CEO, but two, I've never been good at operations. Even with some of my older companies, as we've grown them in headcount, I start breaking apart. Not like mental breakdowns or anything. I'm talking about like, I'm just not good at dealing with people, problems, scaling, etc. I'm really good in a box. And what I mean by that is like, oh, you want to scale? Let me figure out how to scale on the marketing end. That's what I'm really good at. And that's it. I'm good at business strategy, but what I'm really good at is just scaling on getting traffic, leads, and sales.
Amazing. And so, which by the way, I think there are kind of two trajectories that entrepreneurs go on. One is they try to get better in general, holistically, and be a better CEO. And the other is that they try to hire out the things that they're not good at. And I see very few people in my ecosystem that really lean into the latter. Most people feel like they're supposed to, as they grow with the company, step into the new role that has presented itself.
I typically believe that the person who takes a company from 1 to 10, which I'm really good at, is not the person to take it from 10 to 100 or 100 to 500, etc.
What's the ambition with MP Digital?
Just be a larger global ad agency. We're having fun doing it. I don't really have any crazy ambitions or anything like that. I'm just enjoying life.
So you produce a bunch of content out in the world. How has content production changed for you in let's start with the last 2 years since AI really launched?
Yeah. So I've used AI to help with content production. It hasn't worked out great. So I tend to do a lot of stuff manually and I've been enjoying it. I still create content in most cases the same way I did 4 or 5 years ago. There's not much of a difference. Like I set my alarm around 5 a.m. and usually I'm up before then. And I will crank out a tweet. I'll crank out a LinkedIn post, etc. in the morning. And then we do enough tweets, we do enough LinkedIn posts, we'll see what hits. And then we'll use that to create videos for Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, etc.
Has that approach been the same the whole time?
It's been very similar. Whether it's Twitter or another platform, it's similar concepts. You see what's working based on the day and then you apply it to the rest.
The content production today is, you say that it's similar, but what people are putting out seems to be very different today than it was 5 years ago.
Yes, similar for me. A lot of people are now putting out regurgitated information that sucks because they're using AI. That's a real problem. You're not going to do well, but everyone thinks, oh, it'll do well. I'm like, well, everyone's already read that 10 times over. So you just pretty much have a new spin on it. And the new spin is just words organized in different ways. With similar concepts, there's nothing new here. Good luck getting traffic and traction.
So what's the key to, as somebody that tests all this stuff, and you started with, I test with text and then produce video content based on what performs with text. What are the elements of structural elements of a video that you think is going to pop?
It's hit or miss. And that's a real truth. But structurally, you need a good hook. Can't give the answer right away, and you give the answer at the end. So that way they say engage, right? And you better hope your answer is really good so that way they're not pissed off and they like your video or leave a comment. But that part hasn't changed really, right? It's storytelling, it's marketing, but it is a numbers game. It's a big hit or miss.
What is different?
I would say what's really different in today's world is you got to think really hard on what you can create that stands out. Everything just blends in. You know what they say next year that digital marketing spend is going to be $700 billion. We're we're seeing too many ads. We're getting ad blindness. We're seeing marketing campaigns just blend in. It's hard for people to do marketing that sticks out. People are getting less loyal to brands. Like, well, I don't get it the same day delivery. I don't get X, Y, and Z. I don't want to buy this. Like, people are having a harder time with marketing in today's world, and it's tougher.
Yeah, no question about it. One of the ways that people seem to be getting exposure, and this has been true forever in different mediums, but I seem to see it more today than ever, is trend chasing. So looking for the topical thing that's happening that day, that week, that month, and just blasting content on it, even if it's not necessarily aligned with your brand. Do you think it makes sense to do that to get attention?
No, I tend to stick with stuff on brand, and that drives to the core business, or else you'll just get followers and no revenue, or you'll get traffic and no revenue. Oh, sorry, I've been up since 3. I had a fever at 3 a.m., so I woke up and took some medicine. Not the best day.
Yeah, no,
but
that happens.
That's life. I did a webinar too this morning with a fever. Wasn't easy, but yeah. Life.
I know that game. I woke up at 4, but I've got my coffee next to me that's keeping me moving.
There you go. I don't drink caffeine. This makes it harder.
It makes it much harder. Why do you not drink caffeine?
I have a ton of energy without it. It minus me being sick right now, but normally I have tons of energy. I don't need the caffeine. I love what I do. It gives me the energy that I need.
Do you drink alcohol?
Nope.
At all? Zero?
Nope.
Ever? Have you ever?
I have drank alcohol in the past as I got older and got married and had kids. Just slowly stopped drinking it. And then COVID happened and then really didn't drink it because never really had alcohol in my house other than what people buy us as gifts. So then went a long time without drinking alcohol and then just never picked it back up again.
Is it a conscious decision now not to have it?
And no, now I'm allergic to it.
Oh, now you just have a bad reaction?
Within imagine a hangover, but imagine taking a really, really tiny sip and getting that hangover within 3 minutes of taking that sip. That'll stop you drinking all alcohol that's out there.
It sounds like a disincentive.
Yes. I'm not even buzzed at that point. You get what I mean, right? Like having a small sip of beer, you're not going to get drunk from that. And having a massive hangover, like you pounded 20 beers or 10 beers or whatever the number is, but you get that same type of hangover effect in 3 minutes of taking your first sip, you won't want to take any more sips of alcohol. And that's what happened.
Beyond a Million is brought to you by Easy Pay Direct. If you're an entrepreneur and you are still using a product like Stripe or PayPal to accept payments, it is time to find out why the largest names in your industry would never consider doing that. Check out easypaydirect.com/BAM to find out more.
Yeah. Well, that sounds pretty organic. The questions around vices for entrepreneurs are always interesting to me because people rationalize things in different ways. And I don't know that there's a right answer. I fundamentally don't believe that anything is good or bad or right or wrong. I think it's all contextual. But hearing people and the path that they take is always helpful to me to reframe things. Yep. I definitely, when I'm out in the business world connecting with people, find alcohol to be super helpful to lower walls.
It does. It makes people a little bit more social, chatty. Like, it's great, but I can't drink it anymore, so.
Well, sometimes I think about those things and I'm agnostic. So there's a voice in my head that says maybe this is God telling you something. And then I don't know how to reconcile that framework, but I do think it's an internal signal. And sometimes I wonder if my body is just doing it and saying, hey, look, you're supposed to be doing something more than this. This negative reaction that you're having right now is actually a benefit to you.
Yep. Yeah. I look at it as my body's just telling me stay away from it. I was like, all right.
All right, cool then. Okay, so back to marketing and trends. You played with AI a little bit. There is conversation around search and consequently SEO suffering dramatically as AI takes over. Google losing a foothold if you can talk to ChatGPT or the like. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm going to read something I put on Twitter, I think 2 days ago. All right. A lot of marketers are worried that SEO is dead or won't exist anymore. Well, one number tells a different story. $32.78 billion. It's the revenue generated by Google's partner network, AdSense, in 2022. And if you can guess how the sites got their traffic, SEO is a good chunk of it. It's not profitable to grow your AdSense site through paid ads. You have to organically get traffic. And Google knows killing SEO impacts their revenue. They would need time to test and figure out alternative ways to make up that revenue. SEO will change, and some sites will lose traffic from certain queries, but it doesn't mean SEO will disappear. It will just change. Especially with certain queries, Google will struggle with an accurate answer. Just think about a health-related question. They know that AI won't always give the correct result, which could harm people. And removing inaccurate information isn't easy. Just search for anything online, chances are you'll find pages ranking with inaccurate information. Instead of worrying about SEO dying, focus on an omni-channel approach, because this won't be the last time Google or any platform makes a change that can negatively impact your marketing. I posted on Twitter on Saturday. And the reason I posted that is a lot of people just have this belief that SEO is dying. It's just like, okay, go tell Google to erase that $32 billion chunk in revenue. Now, it won't erase fully, but you get the point. It'll go down drastically. Good luck with their stock price the next quarter. It's not going to happen. Does it mean SEO is not going to change? Does it mean that people won't get less traffic? I'm not saying that. Yeah, some people get less traffic, but you just got to adapt. SEO is not just Google. SEO is Bing. SEO is optimizing for Instagram and TikTok. A Google VP said when Gen Z or young people are looking for a place to eat or a restaurant, they're looking first on TikTok and Instagram before they're looking on Google, right? This is from someone who works at Google. You can do SEO if you have an Airbnb company. Let's say you have rentals. Well, when people search on Airbnb, you want to make sure yours ranks at the top. SEO is everywhere. And I think that's where people mess up, and it'll change. That could mean you get less traffic or more traffic, but it doesn't mean that it's going away. And you can't worry about those things. That's why you got to look at all platforms. Facebook's changed algorithms so many times that hurts a lot of marketers. And so does Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn, and the list goes on and on. This is just normal.
So platforms change, marketing methods stay the same. That's the narrative of a long-standing marketer, for sure.
Platforms change. A lot of the strategies stay the same. Maybe the tactics change, but you just got to adapt. And if you don't adapt, you're going to lose, and that's fine.
What tactics a year ago worked really well that aren't working today?
Sure. So year, not that big of a time frame difference, but I'll give you a year. So like on Instagram, doing carousels worked extremely well. They would count that as engagement, and it would cause your images to do really well, whatever you post on Instagram. Not so much these days. They want the reels, right? On YouTube, years ago, 2-3 years ago, if you optimize for search, videos that did well in the first 24 hours tended to rank high. That'd be enough to do well on YouTube. YouTube's really competitive now. Now, if your thumbnails aren't amazing, your videos aren't engaging, people aren't sticking around, you're not going to get the same view count, right? All this stuff affects the results.
Many, many years ago, you could keyword stuff in SEO and just cram the keywords in. And that was sort of the V1 of how do I get ranked on a search engine. Today, if you do that, it'll just crush you, right? Tremendously negative impact. What are the biggest mistakes that you could make today as a marketer by trying to game the system that you're actually going to hurt yourself doing?
Yeah, short-term gains, long-term pain. I would say right now, if you want to do well in the system, there's one stat to keep in mind, 15%. 15% of the searches that happen on Google each and every single day are brand new searches that have never been happened, that never took place before. 15%. Go after the keywords that people are now starting to search for that didn't have the demand previously, and you can use tools like Answer the Public for that, right? And if you do that, you'll be in a much better spot.
Interesting. Tell me more about that. Where does the rubber meet the road on from strategy to tactics there?
Well, it's pulling stuff from Google Suggest, like what people are typing in and what are like new upcoming trends. So then now you have all these content things that you can go after that a lot of people aren't competing against. You're not just have a lot of competition, but they're also getting a lot more volume, not as competitive, and you can get results much quicker.
Got it. Google Suggest, Answer the Public, look at upcoming trends, and try to look at where in the Venn diagram, the overlap is between your existing users and what you're trying to accomplish and what's trending.
Bingo.
Start with text to test it on social. If you get traction there, expand to video. Love that. What's your turn time and what's the rest of the content dissemination schedule for you?
Oh, I shoot once a week. Someone comes to my house. We take what's working on the web and we crank out a ton of content. And we can do that within an hour to 2 hours max. And then it's just posted everywhere online.
And throughout the week, you're testing text.
Yes.
For your personal companies, how much do you rely on social content in this strategy versus paid or any other type of marketing?
We tend to rely more on social and organic and SEO than paid. It's our DNA. We also do quite a bit of paid, but just not for ourselves because we have enough demand organically. And paid in our space is really, really expensive. And it's hard to make it profitable.
So most of your energy then is content production
Yes.
and or backlinking, I would imagine.
No, tons of backlinking, content production. When it comes to marketing, that's where I'm spending a lot of my time. I also read and experiment a lot too.
Love that. Yeah, it seems like everybody is being pushed towards just produce more content. As you mentioned, a lot of it ends up being garbage. How do you ensure that you're making quality stuff on a routine basis? And you gave a couple tips there, but you just leaned into, I do a lot of research.
Yeah. So one, I do a lot of research. Two, I look for what people are interested in and like answer the public Uber says, things like that show that. Three, I really look at other competitors, what they're doing. That gives me insights on what's working for them and what's not. Four, I experiment and test. And the reason I say that is just because I think something's good doesn't mean other people will. So when you push stuff out, you'll start noticing trends on, oh, people like this kind of stuff. People don't like it when I'm too negative in my content. People like it when I discuss these topics. They don't like it when I discuss these other topics. These posting times per day work better than others, right? Like all these things really matter.
Yeah, they seem to. And then actually tracking that stuff seems to be another full-time job.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you approach looking at the metrics on all this stuff? I mean, do you have any fun tools or creative strategies to make sure that as you look across all the platforms, you get a decent view of the full picture?
It's not necessarily tools, it's reporting. We just track it all ourselves and we report. And then we look at our own analytics for every platform and then we compare notes on what's working and what's not. I have a lot of people, so it kind of makes that part easy.
It does. Yeah, it does. So obviously we're in the wheelhouse right now of marketing in a marketing agency, and maybe you have lessons from clients as well, but what platforms are performing best for you right now? And are there some that you're much more bullish on?
X, LinkedIn, those two are performing extremely well. And I think they're really underrated.
In terms of what you're creating, how frequently do you have a CTA in the content?
Not that often. We do it for branding.
Got it. And so where's the CTA, if at all?
There is no CTA in most of our content. It's just getting the brand out there so that when people are interested in working with us, they hit us up. Keep in mind, we're enterprise, right? Like most cases, you're not going to get someone to be like, I read your blog post. Here's $5 million. Like it doesn't really work that way.
Okay.
A lot of checks and balances for big contracts.
So let's say that you weren't enterprise. What's your approach if you were marketing to SMB or mid-market?
I would have call to actions everywhere and tell people to sign up or DM me or whatever you want to end up testing out and see what works the best with the content type.
Got it. Yeah. Across our client base, we see a bunch of different funnels, and some of them are book a call. Some of them are DM. Some of them are CTA heavy and lots of content. Some of them are every 10 things, do a CTA.
Yep. You just got to test. There really is no right or wrong answer, right? Or there's not like one formula that works for all businesses. I really do believe it varies per audience, per business, per product or service you're selling. You just got to adjust and tweak. It's not what people want to hear, but it's the truth.
No, it's not what people want to hear. I think one of the greatest ironies of entrepreneurial life is that we all want to do our own thing, yet really what we want is for somebody to tell us what to do.
Yeah. And they want to get the results as quick as possible too.
Right. I want somebody to tell me what to do, but they have to be super credible and I have to have 100% respect for them to trust that they know what I'm supposed to do.
Yep.
Yeah, that's terrible. How do you think about evergreen content versus topical things right now?
We do a mixture of both. We do evergreen, we do topical. That way you can capture people from all different types of audience types.
How often do you refresh your evergreen content?
The ones that are popular, we refresh at least once every 2 to 3 months.
Wow. I would be afraid that I'd be cannibalizing the initial post or content.
You get way more traffic. Just look at Wikipedia. They rank for everything because their content's so fresh and up to date.
What constitutes refreshing the content? How much do you have to change?
We don't look at it that way. We look at what do we need to change to make it better. We figure out how to change content. I know you didn't ask this. Based on Google Search Console, we look at our content, what's been declining in traffic over the last 3 months, because you can compare last 30 days versus 3 months before, or even a year before. And the stuff that's declining is the stuff we tend to update the first. And we just keep doing that and we keep rolling it.
Love that. How much content are you producing today versus 2 years ago? Do you have to produce more? Do you produce less? Does it matter?
Oh, we produce way less content. We probably, if you're talking about blog content, maybe we produce 4 or 5 a month. We update maybe 100 a month. Social content, we're producing multiple pieces a day, at least one video a day, multiple text pieces a day. Multiple text pieces allow us to figure out what video pieces were.
Text pieces to video pieces. And it sounds like you ultimately have larger blog pieces that you're refreshing, but that are more evergreen, that are longstanding.
Yes.
We're piecing together your strategies, Neil. That's great. I mean, from an SEO perspective, it's a black box for a lot of people. And a lot of people are in a race to figure out how to make it happen and throwing stuff against the wall and hoping. And there are a lot of agencies that try to teach SEO, but not many do it super well.
Yep. Not too many do it well. But that black box, is not that hard. There's so many articles and tools that end up breaking down how to do SEO. SEO is not hard. It just requires patience. That's what people don't have. They want results now instead of waiting a year, 2 years, 3 years. And the results can be amazing over time. I'm not saying you can't get results in less than a year. It's just, it really compounds. People aren't patient.
So your content that you produce speaks to SMB, mid-market, as well as enterprise execs. Why is that the content to produce? Or is it just a byproduct?
The reason we produce that content specifically for us is because it helps us get more leads that are qualified. Like, I won't create a video that talks about, here's all the different shoes I tried, and this one's the most practical. Like, not going to give me any customers. I stick with what my ideal customer wants, not what generates the most views. Because I could just go on Twitter and start releasing quotes and just do tons of quote bombs every single day and get tons of engagement. But it's not going to drive any customers.
But I guess that's part of my question. I like that. And part of the question is, I would think some of the things that you post around the cornerstone of creating a good SEO strategy, or the top 5 ways to make sure that you're producing good social content today, or something. I know that they would speak directly to EasyPayDirect's client base, which are largely, $1 to $50 million companies. And so I would think you would get a shitload of leads for that.
We don't want that.
That's what I'm saying. But I would think you would get those leads and get those followers. Is the content not getting that as well? Or is there something that you're doing?
No, it is. We get all of it. So I'm going to load up my LinkedIn right now, okay? And on my LinkedIn, so if I look at the analytics from the last post, it had 50,000 impressions. I posted it 5 hours ago. All right. If I look at company size, 19.1 were from 11 to 50 employees. 1 to 10 employees were 15.7. Okay. And then 51 to 200 employees were 14.4. All right. So now we're at 49.2. 201 to 500 employees is 6.9. All right. We're now at 56.1. 501 to 1,000 employees is 6.5%. So now that piece of content I posted to, roughly 62% of the people it reach, some of them may be my ideal audience because there's some big companies with not a ton of employees, but roughly 40% is more my ideal audience. It's a numbers game. Yeah, you're always going to get some stuff that doesn't resonate with your ideal audience, but that's okay. As long as you're also reaching your ideal audience at the same time, that's fine. That's what I love about LinkedIn Analytics. It'll tell you the company sizes that are seeing your content.
Yeah. I mean, that's worth the price of admission here. The number of people that post stuff and don't look at analytics granularly is astounding.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And people make that mistake. It's like the data is there, but people just don't want to look at it. I don't know why.
They're busy. They don't think about it, or they don't know.
Yep.
Who do you study to learn new marketing today?
No one particularly. I just read a lot. And I study competitors and other people and see what they're doing that's interesting. I don't really say okay, here's one guru or popular marketer, etc. I'm more so just looking at what are people running online, and I look to see if I can learn from it and apply it to my industry.
Looking at ads that you get served?
I look at ads I get served as well. I look at emails that are getting served. I look at Facebook's library to see what competitors are doing. I look at all this stuff to get more insights.
But no specific sources that you tend to go back to for marketing.
No.
Was that different when you got started? Are there OG marketers that you were like, hey, I need to learn the basics from these people?
Yes, a lot of them don't just produce content anymore, right? But it's not even that. It's changed to an omni-channel game. It's changed to a game where there's so many different channels that you got to try and test. And it's just easier to see what's happening, not by reading, but by experimenting and seeing what other people are doing and just crank it out and see if it works for you.
Okay. Before we wrap, I want to talk about money and what to do with it. So you make a bunch of money. You have two options. One is that you figure out the tax game. The other is that you give it to the government.
Or 3, you can just donate it.
Or 3, you can donate it. So how do you approach that?
My wife donates it. We pay her taxes, it's federal and state, live in the United States. And we focus more on wealth generation versus tax savings. But I've tried a lot of stuff. I've tried like the 831Bs, like which is captive insurance companies. I've looked into things like the land easements. I've looked at things like bonus depreciation. The best strategy that we found to avoid taxes is to actually invest more money into growth. If you, for example, if you buy companies, you get depreciation. It reduces your tax bill, not right away, but over time. So we'll do a lot of things like that to reduce our tax liability in the long run, and that causes more growth.
Interesting. So you outproduce in the year of and invest for the longer frame.
Yes, and get tax savings. Because most people have depreciation, or most countries have depreciation. So when we buy companies, we're getting the depreciation, and that's how we're saving a lot of money on taxes. Kind of like real estate, they depreciate, but we get our depreciation from buying.
Are you actively involved in real estate?
Not a big real estate guy.
Yeah, just back into the business. Love it. Fair enough, man.
I have real estate, have homes, but they're just homes. Dude, I'm not even living at home. I'm in a rental right now.
Why?
I have my wife in the background sleeping. She's sick. We're all sick right now, even including my kids. Although actually, my kids are not sick anymore. They haven't been sick for like 4 days. But then my wife got it, and then I started getting it.
They were the beginning. Your kids infected you.
Yes, it all started around Halloween. That's been quite a while.
It's that all too known poison candy phenomenon.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Neil, I appreciate you carving out time to talk, man. If anybody wants to find out more about Neil Patel, where do you want to point them?
NP Digital.
NP Digital, preferably if they have 1,000 employees.
Or less. It doesn't matter. We're always down to help people out of any size. We make most of our money from enterprise, but we do marketing for SMB as well.
Oh, love it. Love it, man. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you carving out the time, man. Until next time.
Sounds good.
If you learned one thing on this episode, share it with another entrepreneur. They need to hear it. Also subscribe so that new episodes just show up on your phone. It's a lot easier that way. And if you want the really good stuff, check out our free BAM! Tactics and Strategies course. It's where we curate the best tips, tricks, and tools that our guests know, whether they've shared them on the podcast or not. Just go to beyondamill.com. You'll also find previous episodes and show notes at beyondamill.com.